Hello and welcome. Welcome to Space Engineers on the Series X. And this is the first tutorial in a set of new tutorials for 2026 that we're going to be doing. I'm going to be looking at the aspects of the game that have changed. And today's tutorial is quite simply all about the two radials that you can access on your controller by clicking in the left stick or clicking in the right stick. We are here on my Earth-like planet in a desert area by my little base that I established when Contact came out, I think in 2024 that was. I think the save on this particular game is somewhere around 2024. I can't quite remember. But this is a great place to kick back and look at stuff. So we'll land and then I shall chat a little bit about the radials. But to begin with, lots have changed in Space Engineers, specifically in terms of the AI blocks are far more accurate than they used to be, which means it's possible to set up a system where you can, with the aid of broadcast controllers and some shenanigans, have a complete auto docking landing system that totally shuts your ship down when it lands, but also opens your bay doors and closes them and so on. And this is what this is. And so this took a while to set up. It took a while to program the waypoints. It took a while to time everything. It certainly took a while and a bunch of trial and error to get right. But thanks to the new AI, it seamlessly lands and we're back. It's a bit dark in here, but it doesn't matter because we're going to go outside. The lift uses the new set piston distance and everything. And welcome to my little base, utilising some of my tricks and some of my things that I've been doing for a while. This base isn't as big or as expansive as the other bases that you've seen in my previous videos, but I like it. And it's got lights which come on at night as controlled by this broadcast controller set up over here and this light detector. But that's not why we're here. Why we are here, say hello to your two radial menus. So we're going to click in the right stick first, and the first thing about the radial menus that you will notice is that it has altered, because now if you move to Blueprint Actions menu and then you come out of it, you come back in, you will automatically open up on the last used menu or the last used segment of the radial, this top part here that tells you where you are, the navigation bar or whatever you want to call it. If you press Y, you will go back to quick actions. So let's run through this radial. This part I don't believe has changed, but you can see you have all your quick actions that you'd want to use, your helmet, your broadcasting system, the camera mode to first person and third, and it tells you the controller shortcuts as well, so if you ever get stuck you just need to look at that. Then we move on by hitting the right trigger to blueprint actions. These have not changed. We'll discuss blueprints and all that good stuff down the line again. Moving on to the menu. The menu, we have admin menu, help screen, blueprints, progression tree, if you're playing with progression on, the spawn menu, which we will discuss again at some point, respawning, a player screen if you're playing in multiplayer, the chat, then the view. Now this has slightly changed. We have still got spectator mode, we've got signal mode, and we've got active contracts, but now we have buffs because the survival system can have active buffs. We will discuss that again. This isn't the purpose of this particular video, but let's just say the longer you're alive and the more you sort of keep yourself hydrated and fed, the more you gain in terms of active buffs. Then our voxel hand, which I will be going into a tutorial on that one eventually. We have a lot of stuff to mess about with there. And a new menu part, the seeds. So as I mentioned previously, there is a farming system in the game now, and you can grow crops and you can turn crops into seeds and into food and so on and so forth. And we have mushroom spores, vegetable, fruit seeds, grain seeds, and then back to quick actions. And that's the right stick radial. Now the biggest change has been on the left stick radial. So we click in the left stick, go to our recent blocks. That's where it starts. So again, you press Y, you will go to your recent blocks menu. That isn't going to be as hard as it used to be. You don't have to skip back and try and get to the recent blocks menu yourself. So in the recent blocks, you can see it starts with wheel suspension, gyroscopes, large atmospheric thrusters, large iron thrusters, small reactor, cockpits, armour blocks, and so on. So if we hit right trigger again, we move on to the light armour. We have light armour blocks. And I'll just slowly go through these so you can see that there are some new armour pieces that have appeared, and panels and different kinds of shapes for panels and rounded panels like this one. By pressing A we can go all the way through. The light armour panel round corner, round faces, inversed corner, and so on. Half panels, quarter panels, and the same for all our heavy armour. And some of these have been added via the DLC, some of them have been added as the game has progressed. Then we have our structures. This is where you will now find all of your things like your interior walls, your blast doors, your beam blocks, your scaffolding blocks to make these industrial areas look more industrialised, your pillars, your floor blocks, which are really cool, and your rounded edges. Moving on to structure 2, we've got our doors with a wide variety of them now. We have a lot more options. We have the lab door and the lamb door inverted, centered doors, and so on. We have our gates, airtight hangar doors, our passages for making corridors on board ships and things like that, our corridors themselves, the Willis ducts, and our ramps. Structure 3 contains your catwalks, cover walls, grated catwalks, railings, and ladders. As you can see, it's all been restructured to make it, in theory, easier to use. In practice, it's a little bit tricky to get used to if you're so used to, like I was, doing the whole thing almost like a potluck. Decorations, we've now got your beds and half beds and so on, the toilets, the kitchen units, the sci-fi bar counters, these sinks, which are pretty cool. And you can see as well, I should draw your attention to what can be used on what. So, for instance, you'll see that this simple bed, half bed, open and inset bed are large grid. You can tell this if you look below the radial. You'll see LB and X, which allows you to change the block type from large to small. This won't be a thing with Space Engineers 2 because they have this unified system which just looks amazing. And then if we move over to this, on the other hand, the sink is small grid only. You can see because the block has now changed from large to a tiny block in the corner. That lets you know that you cannot use these on a large ship. This is for a small ship to make it more homely. Planters for decorating interiors, aquariums, terrariums. Your good old couches, corner couches, and an inset couch, which is really cool now. And then your desks. Lots of options with the desk. Some lab stuff. And then your console modules, which are very useful. Then moving along, we've got our lab equipment, we've got access panels, we have storage shelves, weapon racks, pipes, which are great for decorating bases and ships, for greebling. More stuff you could use for greebling with conduits, neon tubes, the exhaust pipes and the exhaust cap. Oops. There you go. More decoration, the anniversary statue, the dead engineers and the plushie. Then we have our cockpits. This is in control. So we've got cockpits, we've got control seats, and we've got all these lovely helm, saddle cockpit, compact suspended control stations and seats now, which are really cool. Bridge helm. These are a set of actual blocks designed to act as a helm of a ship, and they have controls built in and so on, which is really cool. You can see. And what's cool about this is if I select something, say like the bridge helm, and then we change the axis of rotation by tapping down on the D-pad, you can see it's got its own chair, its own sweet design, so you can make a really cool looking ship without having to try and put all this together yourself. We'll just select that, left trigger. So how I took the tool off there, by the way, was holding down the left bumper and pressing B. That deselects your active tool and also your active block. If we click in the radial again though, you'll notice that we're still on the control. We don't have to scroll back through to get to where we want to go. Passenger seats. Our remote control is now found here, and this is a little redundant really in terms of the system to fly from waypoint to waypoint. It's better to use the AI controller blocks. This is more useful if you want to create a remote control drone that you actually fly yourself. And then you've got your AI flight move, your AI defensive combat, your offensive combat, the task block, and your recorder, which I used a combination of the AI flight move and the recorder to make my ship come in, do all that stuff, land and turn itself off and so on, using a combination of event controllers, timer blocks and so forth. Then we have your power, which is your batteries, your solar, your wind, your hydrogen engine and reactors. to movement. This is all to do with your thrusters, gyroscopes and your parachutes. Another set for wheels. And now we move on to the survival, production and medical with the refinery, your assembler, the modules, the generator for the O2H2, survival kit and your type 2 survival kit, your medi room and your corner medical room, your cryo chamber, your insect cryo room and a lab vat, which is awesome. Now, the new thing is the food processor. So along with the food processor, we have an algae farm, irrigation system and a farm plot. Those are all brand new. Then we have a logistics blocks, which are cargo containers, our conveyor junctions, pipe junctions, small conveyors, freight boxes, barrels, cargo crates and storage bins. Whipping through to your collector, your connector, and there is also the inset connector, which is great for making a ship that doesn't have a great bit sticking out the bottom or the side. And we've got the small grid version as well that we can do. There's a small inset connect, but also a small grid. If you look down the bottom, you can see the 2 blocks that you can change between the grid sizes. Small oxygen tanks, oxygen farm, and a half oxygen farm, just like your algae farm. The air vents with the full fan and full, so you can put your blocks in with your air venting. The oxygen refill station and the inset version. The utilities from your grinders through to your projectors, your cameras, your lighting, your spotlights, your heat vent and your sound blocks. Ore detector is in utility 2 with the beacons, the antennas, broadcast controllers, safe zones and your stores and things. Then in your weapons, we've now got all of this lovely stuff. Then we move on to automation with the timer blocks, the automaton timer block, which is just another timer block that looks prettier. Event controllers and action relay, all important parts of this new automation system. Programmable block, which doesn't really do anything for the console version, I'm afraid, unless you are lucky enough to be able to play on a server, and you can play on one that has server-side only code. We still don't do shields and things on console. Sensors, then your button panels of all shapes and sizes, including the one I used for the lifts and things, which is the inset button panel. Your target dummy. All your screens are all in one place now with your motion controller. All of these lovely signs and things. Your landing gears are all in the right place. Merge blocks. Your pistons are now in mechanical, along with your rotors and your hinges, so it's all in one place. You can find it all nice and easily once you get used to it. Windows of various kinds, more windows, your high-tech blocks are for your jump drives, your gravity gen, your artificial mass, and your prototech, which was added in the update. And you can only get prototech in creative or by finding it out in the wild in survival. And it is extremely tricky to get hold of. The Factorum, the new faction that they added to Space Engineers, do not want to let it go lightly. And then background, we come to recent blocks again. And you'll see that now we have the bridge helm has replaced one of them because the light block has now been moved out, because we used the bridge helm. So regularly using different parts will refresh this list, so there's no need to jump all the way back to the thing that you were on. Although, as I said before, whatever block section that you're on, if you come out of it and come back in, you'll be back to where you were. And if you want to get back out of that, you just press Y back to the recent blocks, and that's it. That is your quick look at both radials and some discussion about how things have changed. This is the first step to my new set of tutorials. I will be going through the various survival mechanics such as farming, which if I put my torch on, you'll see my door here. And some people have said about the gate that it's a tricky one to open. All you have to do is press the little control here. I haven't set this on an automatic door close yet. But here is my irrigation system feeding down to my crops, which are grown here. And then there's the food processor. But we'll have an in-depth discussion on all of this, because it is very important to create a closed system like this if you're even on the desert now, because if you've got all the survival mechanics active, weather isn't just a cosmetic thing anymore. Deserts can be hit like Pertum with extreme weather effects such as sudden spikes in heat. And if you have your crops on the outside and there is a sudden spike in heat, they will die. And that's going to be your crops ruined. Anyway, that's it. I've rambled on enough. It's good to be back, as I said before. Look forward to the next tutorial next Sunday, and possibly some videos during the week. I may do some random stuff here and there. There'll probably be some more No Man's Sky. I've had a few people ask me about building on No Man's Sky, specifically just literally some tricks and tips, nothing about glitch building. A lot of people who ask me the questions just want vanilla building without having to mess around with placing wires and so on and so forth to do things, and I'm more than happy to have a poke around with that as well. I adore space games and I adore games that contain building. That is, however, all from me. So, until then, stay safe, take care, have fun, enjoy the game. There is still a lot more to come from Space Engineers 1 as we watch Keen developing Space Engineers 2. Bye for now.